Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Arden of Faversham, and we're going to finish up with Act 1, Scene 1 today, we're also finishing up with Act 1. There's only the one scene in this act, which is totally fair because it's a very long scene. We've had lots of entrances and exits and all kinds of stuff. The important things, Thomas Arden and Franklin have gone off to London. Arden was able to just narrowly avoid being poisoned by his wife, who was kind of bummed about that, but is working with her boyfriend Mosby, who's an ex-butcher, to figure out some other way to get him killed. And they were interrupted in their whole plotting thing by the entrance of Mr. Green, Dick Green, who is upset that Thomas Arden now has the deeds to all of the lands of the Abbey of Faversham, because some of them used to belong to him. So Green has lost some of his land and was very angry about this and came to talk to Arden about it, but ended up talking to Alice about it. And Alice painted a picture of Thomas Arden as being abusive and sleeping around with prostitutes and all of this sort of stuff, and possibly even threatening her life, which then sent Green into a further rage and said, that man doesn't deserve to live anymore. And she's like, really? Really? Well, can you help get rid of him? Like, here's £10 and just hire somebody in London to do it. Like, don't do it yourself, hire somebody else. And once it's done, come back, I'll give you another £20 and you'll also be able to recover your lands, because with all the lands given to Arden, if he dies, then that deed becomes null and void and it all reverts to its previous owners. And Green is like, okay, cool, will do. And he leaves and she's like, oh. And Mosby and Clark come back in. Remember, Clark was another one with whom they had sort of plotted to try to kill Arden. Clark can supposedly paint something that will make the viewer die. Clark also wants to marry Mosby's sister. So they both come back in, and Mosby's like, so did you make the arrangements for Clark to marry my sister Sue? And Alice, bless her, is like, he should go woo her himself. Like, I shouldn't do that on his behalf. He should go talk to her. She's inside. So Clark goes inside and Alice goes to Mosby. She's like, you're never going to believe it. I have such good news. And he's like, what? And she says, this morning, Master Green, Dick Green, from whom my husband had the Abbey land, came hither railing for to know the truth, whether my husband had the lands by grant. I told him all, whereat he stormed amain and swore he would cry quittance with the churl, and if he did deny his interest, stab him whatsoever did befall himself. When as I saw his choler thus to rise, I wetted on the gentleman with words, and to conclude, Mosby, at last we grew to composition for my husband's death. I gave him £10 for to hire knaves by some device to make away the churl. When he is dead, he should have 20 more, and repossess his former lands again. On this we agreed, and he has ridden straight to London for to bring his death about. So Alice is very pleased with herself. She's solved this problem. She figures it's just a win-win-win. She's just recounting what happened to Mosby. It's not particularly tricky, the speech that she's using. She's basically just says, Green came and he was angry, and then I manipulated him and made him even more angry, and we made a deal that he's going to hire some people in London to kill my husband. It's going to cost us £30. He gets his land back, but it's great. And she's very, very pleased with herself. And Mosby is like, okay, I like, yay that the whole murder thing is taken care of, but like, how well do we know this, Green? There's kind of a lot of people now that know that we want to kill your husband, and that might not be the best move. We maybe should have tried to keep that circle a little smaller. And she's like, well, he goes to church. He's a good man. He'll keep a secret, whatever. And Mosby's like, well, okay, it is what it is. So here's hoping that it all goes well in London. And then Clark and Sue come back outside and they're like, so are you getting married? And they're like, yep, we are, as long as that's okay with you, Brother Mosby. And Mosby is like, great, isn't this fantastic? All right, cool. So Clark and Susan leave, and Mosby's like, so since your husband's away, can I play the part of your husband? And she's like, yeah. And they go inside, and that's the end of Act 1. So, oh my goodness, I told you, Act 1, Scene 1 is practically a play unto itself. we still have 4 more acts to go of this thing. We do still need to find out if Mosby gets killed, if Sue and Clark gets married. Oh, one other thing that I forgot in that last little tidbit, when Sue and Clark say, like, yes, they're gonna get married, Mosby's like, oh, hey, just one other quick favor. You can make a crucifix that's painted so that when somebody looks at it, they'll die, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, can you make me one? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess. Who's it for? And they're like, leave that up to us. Just can you do it? And he's like, yeah, I can do it. And Alice is like, just real quick on this whole poison paint thing, how are you able to paint and not die using this paint? And he's like, well, I put on like glasses and stick them to my face so that that's there, and I stick a rhubarb leaf on my nose so I can't smell anything, and then I'm all good to do the painting. And she's like, okay, makes perfect sense. And then Clark and Susan leave. Mosby and Alice do their little dirty flirting and go inside, and that's the end of Act 1. So yeah, we got to figure out, I'm very curious to see if this poison paint is going to come back at some point in the play and play a part, because it has played a fairly large role for an inanimate object in Act 1, Scene 1. Also want to know if Arden actually gets killed and how that happens. Do Mosby and Alice get to be together? Is something going to get in the way of Sue and Clark getting together? Because remember, there was still Michael Bolton, who also wanted to marry Susan, so still a ways to go in the remaining 4 acts. Come on back tomorrow and we'll figure out what happens, how it all gets settled. I'll see you then. Mwah.